Hey everyone, it's Hailey, and today is Bookmas Day 5, so I'm going to be sharing my worst books of 2021. So first of all, don't take this personally. If you loved any of these books, that's amazing, and I'm glad someone has to. I'm totally kidding. That is a complete joke, I promise. Like, not everyone reads the same books. The bottom line is a lot of you guys hate my favorite books, and that's totally fine. Like, I have no problem with that. And I know a lot of you guys hate the disclaimer too, but just like, I don't want anyone to feel bad because one of their favorite books of the year or favorite books in general is on this list. However, for whatever reason, these books just didn't work for me. So yesterday we talked about my favorite books of 2021. So if you want a little bit more positivity, I'll have that link down below for you guys, as well as the entire Bookmas playlist. But also don't forget to subscribe because I'm going to be putting out a new video every single day for the entire month of December to celebrate Bookmas. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing a reading vlog, reading some of my 2020 5-star predictions. Actually, I mean, I did the video in 2020, but they were like 2021 5-star predictions. I don't know how to say that. Anyways, I feel like I have talked for way too long, so let's just get into this list. The first book on my least favorite, did I change the, wait, it's day 5. No, I didn't change my reindeer. Ding, there we go. Anyways, my first least favorite book of 2021, which I would just like to emphasize, there's no bad books, only bad people. Just kidding. What is happening to me today? There are no bad books. So I'm not saying these books are bad, I just didn't enjoy them that much. So first we have Horrid by Katrina Leno. I actually read this one quite recently. I listened to the audiobook. I had read a Katrina Leno book last year and really had a good time with it. I liked it a lot. So when I picked this one up, I was kind of surprised that I didn't like it so much. I listened to the audiobook for this one, and it's a horror story, so like, I'm not the biggest fan of horror, so that might be where this one went wrong for me, but I just felt like there was a lot of mystery, a lot of things happening, and I was intrigued. Like, there were twists and turns that kept me guessing, but I also found some things to be predictable, and I felt like it ended very suddenly. Like, there were some things that never quite made sense to me, and maybe it's because I'm stupid, like I just didn't get it. I don't know if something just went over my head, but there were certain things that were mentioned like quite casually, and I was like, that doesn't seem like a normal thing. And I don't feel like there was ever really an explanation for it. So that kind of just rubbed me the wrong way, which is why I just didn't like this one so much. It did have me creeped out. Maybe part of it is because I was driving in Montreal traffic from a hair appointment when I listened to most of this, and let me tell you, Montreal drivers are something else. No offense, but also kind of full offense. So it just, like, I don't know if when I was getting mad at someone for driving like an idiot is when I missed something, but yeah, there's just certain things that never really, the dots didn't quite connect for it. I actually had wanted to start off with the books that I don't even have anymore because I didn't enjoy them that much, which also brings me to, I think, when is it? I don't know because I changed my schedule, but one of the days of Bookmas soon, I'm going to be talking about the books that I DNF'd this past year because there actually were quite a few of those. So those are the books that I just didn't enjoy so much that I couldn't even get through them. So if you're wanting more of this negativity, want more of the tea, then you can look out for that video soon. But moving on, It's Kind of a Big Deal by Shannon Hale. It's kind of a big deal or kind of a big deal? I think it's just kind of a big deal. Either way, it was kind of a big fail for me. I so did not like this book at all. I really enjoy Shannon Hale. I have read her Books of Bayern series and I had such a good time with that one, but oh my goodness, did I not like this one. And I was kind of like, I was doing some research for some videos and thinking about reading a book that, like, I was thinking of doing a video where I did a reading vlog and read the lowest rated, why was that so hard for me? The lowest rated books on my TBR pile according to Goodreads. And I was surprised to see that this one had such a low rating, but I went into it with an open mind. I would like to emphasize that. I didn't go into it being like, oh, everyone else hated this book, so I'm gonna hate it too. But I understand why the rating is so low. So we're following a young girl who is working as a nanny in New York City, and she kind of has like pulled the wool over everyone's eyes because everyone thinks she's there on Broadway, like she is working on Broadway in the show, but she's actually not, like she didn't make it. So as a very young girl, she's working as a nanny in New York City. But she was just not a good character, and I was annoyed the entire time. Literally on just like a fluke thing, someone tells her, oh, you would be so good on Broadway. And then she just like puts everything in her life into it. And maybe I just don't get it. But she just was like, oh yes. And then like goes to New York, and it just didn't feel realistic to me. Like, I'm not saying don't follow your dreams, but I don't know. So the main character also, I think part of why it was so unbelievable for me was that the main character read like she was like 10 years old. She read very, very young, even though she's supposed to be kind of an older protagonist. So it read more like a middle grade. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It just didn't really fit the story. I think if it had actually been a middle grade and had been like a younger character, I would have liked it more. But like, I just felt like this book was trying so hard. It was trying to be so many things and just didn't really make the mark on any of them. It was trying to be really funny, and it just felt like it was trying so hard, which just made it kind of uncomfortable to read. I felt like I never really learned anything about our main character either, apart from the fact that like she had this dream to be on Broadway and she was a nanny. But then when I did learn some things about her, I was annoyed by it. So like, she ends up actually going to this bookstore, and then she can go into books, and she's trying to find the perfect life for her in books, but like, it just, I don't know, you didn't get enough time of her being established as a character to then like connect with her as she's going through these books and trying to kind of find where she fits in. So it just was a very weird reading experience that I did not like at all. I would just say read the books of Bayern series, those are really good, but personally I would skip this one. Although if you really like Broadway, you might like it. Like, who's to say? Next is one that I'm so sad that it didn't work out for me, and that is This Is Kind of an Epic Love Story by Case and Callender. I read Felix Ever After by Case and Callender last year, and I completely fell in love with it. So I wanted to read more from the author, obviously, because that book was on my favorites of 2020 list, but I just didn't like this one at all, and I'm so sad about it. Where I fell in love with Felix Ever After is kind of where this book fell flat for me. The characters in Felix Ever After were so lovable and enjoyable, and I just completely fell in love with them and their story. And then in this case, I found the characters to be super annoying, and I had such a hard time rooting for them and reading about them for that matter. I will say the cast of characters is super diverse, and it was really nice to see this romance blossom between these two POC queer males. And it was so sad that I found both of them to be such like horrible characters. There was a lot of infidelity going on, and it was kind of to the point where like I had to flip back to make sure I was reading things right, and I just didn't like that. It made it so hard for me to root for the characters because I felt like they deserved better. This book does have some redeeming qualities. It also features really great representation for the hard of hearing and deaf community, but I just found that those redeeming qualities were outweighed by the fact that this character was treating another character so horribly, and like I didn't like the function of cheating as kind of a plot catalyst. It was very jarring, and I didn't enjoy it at all. I particularly tend to enjoy books that have more likable characters, so that's why I really struggled with this one, and unfortunately I really didn't enjoy it. Next up is The Blackbird Girls by Anne Blankman. I'm really sad that this one is on this list, but these books kind of vary. Like, mostly I'm trying to judge off of my personal enjoyment of them, and this one I enjoyed, but it just wasn't what I was really expecting. I was really looking forward to this one because I knew it dealt with the Chernobyl disaster at the forefront, and I hadn't read anything about that before. I don't really know all that much about it, to be honest. I remember like I've watched a couple documentaries, I think, in history classes before, but it's not something that I'm super well versed on. So I was really excited to be exposed to it in this book, but it was just kind of a catalyst for the story, and then things went a completely different way. So I was kind of disappointed by that because I wanted to know a little bit more about life for these young girls after this disaster has hit them. And and I felt like it focused on other things, and that was fine. Like, this wasn't a bad book. It just, I wanted it to be something a little bit different. So this is a middle grade, and you're following two young girls who have been involved in the Chernobyl disaster. Their fathers were actually working there, and they have obviously been displaced, and they're trying to like get their feet under them again. So this does deal with some other triggering topics such as child abuse, and anti-Semitism is definitely really important to the story. So it did a good job of things. It's just like, it also had this World War II plotline that it was alternating between, and I didn't find that that really added that much to the story. So I felt like I was trying to do a little bit more than it should have. And it should have just kind of focused on one thing, and then it may have been a little bit of a stronger read. But I'm really sad I didn't like this one because I very much wanted to. I enjoyed Prisoner of Night and Fog by Anne Blankman, but this one just wasn't what I wanted it to be. Next is Love is a Revolution by Renee Watson. So this is kind of another case of, I'm not really a huge fan of unlikable main characters, and that was what I felt like this main character was. I did like, I would say this one is kind of, it was close to not being on this list because it was just like it was okay. I liked that our main character kind of went on this journey of self-discovery and self-acceptance, but she is an extremely flawed main character, and that's not a bad thing. It made her very realistic, but at the same time, it did kind of make the book hard to enjoy reading. I didn't really enjoy how judgmental she was about other people and how she like started this relationship. It just felt very uncomfortable for me, and how she treated her sister as well. So I just wasn't really a fan of reading about such a judgmental character, but at the same time, it was really realistic. So this one does kind of just come down to personal preference, but if you're unfamiliar with this book, it's about a main character who is like kind of completely against anything activism related, and her sister is all over that stuff. So she ends up going to this open mic night with her sister's group and sees this guy, and it's like love at first sight. So she pretends to be someone completely different to try and start a relationship with him. And you see, I mean, quickly, obviously that's not going to work. And she goes on this journey of self-love, which is super important, but I just found her a really hard character to read about. That being said, I do think a lot of people could really benefit from this read because while there's that romance plot line, it's more of a self-love story. So I think it is definitely a good book. I just think that if you don't really like unlikable main characters like me, then you might have a harder time with it. Next is The Light Between Worlds by Laura E. Weymouth. So this is one of the first books I thought of when I thought of books that I read this year and didn't enjoy. And I'm really sad about this one because I had had it for a very long time, but it was not what I was expecting at all. Like, not at all. This book is kind of like, when you read the synopsis, it seems like you're gonna get a Narnia-esque story. So you have these siblings who, it's the 1940s, they have gone into a bunker and then they end up in the woodlands. So you understand where I'm getting the Narnia thing here. But now they have come back from this fantastical world and are trying to like integrate into society again. And it's about how difficult that can be for them. So I thought that concept seemed super cool, but oh my goodness, is this like a bleak and depressing read. There are heavy trigger warnings in this book, like for self-harm and suicidal ideation and depression, and just be aware of that. But you're following two perspectives in here. So the first half is the younger sister, and then the second half is the older sister. But oh my goodness, I just wasn't expecting this book to be as depressing as it was. I really can't think of another word to say. So since I was expecting something entirely different, it really made it hard for me to enjoy it. It did, like in the beginning, you get to see the characters, like it's 1949 and you get to see them living their life, and then it alternates between that and there's these passages that are all in italics, which is when they were actually in the woodlands. So you get like a full rounded picture of everything, but the being back, like I just felt very confused about what was happening, and then when I did understand what was happening, it was like just very sad. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it's just I wasn't expecting it, which made it like, since the book was completely different than what I thought it was going to be, that a lot of times can kind of affect my enjoyment of whatever book I'm reading. I do think that the jumping in between of time periods kind of did affect my enjoyment of it because it was hard to get a grip on any one place that you were. which is why it felt really confusing. I just felt like the concept could have been interesting, but the execution was kind of a little bit lackluster and bland. The first portion with the first sister, I felt like I never got connected to her. And then the second portion, by the time we got there, I just kind of wanted to get through it, even though the plot was finally starting to get going. I just didn't really care. I just was so far that like I didn't want to DNF it at that point. So unfortunately, just didn't enjoy this one. Next up is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. So this is the latest edition, the new book of the Hunger Games series that came out last year. And I have a thing. I really don't like when authors add on to series that are already finished, because maybe part of it is because I'm not a huge fan of series, but another part of it is that I feel like most times it doesn't go well. It never really ends up being a book that I enjoy. And sometimes I like them, but like generally I go in with great skepticism, and I can think of numerous examples where that skepticism has been very warranted because I have not liked the edition. So in this case, I kind of was a little bit more open-minded because it's not following the Hunger Games or anything. It's actually a prequel to it. So you're finding out more about President Snow and how he became President Snow. And I felt like I understood a lot of like how he became to be the person that he is in the Hunger Games, but at the same time, I didn't feel like this was necessary. I didn't need this. I'm fine with just having a villain. Like I do really enjoy villain backstories, mind you, but this one it missed the mark for me a little bit. I didn't hate it. I could have not read it and I would have been okay. It took such a long time to actually get going, so it was kind of boring in contrast to the actual Hunger Games series, and I don't know why it had to happen. I mean, I know why, because money, but also she probably just wanted to continue the story. Like, I'm not judging. Yeah, I would have been fine not having read it. And the final book on my least favorites of this year is Jay's Gay Agenda by Jason June. This is kind of a similar case to It's Kind of an Epic Love Story in the fact that this deals with cheating a lot, and it made it so hard for me to like the characters. I started out enjoying the story. You're following Jay, and he goes and he's living in Seattle, and he's so excited because he feels like he's finally going to be exposed to gay culture and get to see other queer people and just get involved in that, because he comes from a very small town where he was like the token gay and had a very hard time with that. So he's so excited to finally be able to express himself and learn more about queer culture. However, he makes this list of like things to check off, and I felt like there were so many characters that I loved that became collateral damage in the process of that. So it made it really hard to enjoy Jay as a character. He started off like, just like you loved him. He seemed just like he was going to be great, and then he quickly went downhill, and I wanted a lot better for him. I wanted a lot better for the people around him, and yeah, it was quite disappointing. Okay, so those are all of my least favorite books that I read this past year. There's not that many. Like, the good news is that as I'm trying to find these lists, there's really not that many, and I think part of it is because I DNF books, and especially this year. Like, in 2020, I didn't really do that much DNFing, but in 2021, I definitely did. So that's helpful because it means I wasn't really finishing books that I didn't enjoy, which is why this list is a bit smaller. But like I said, I will be doing a video soon for Bookmas talking about all the books that I DNF'd this past year. So don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell if you don't want to miss any new videos. I'm going to be posting a new video every single day for the entire month of December, so you definitely will want to keep up with that. But like I said, tomorrow for Bookmas Day 6, I'm going to be doing a reading vlog where I'm going to be reading some books that I thought I was going to love, that I predicted as 5-star favorites for 2021. So we'll see if I do actually end up enjoying them. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Please let me know what your worst, least favorite book was for 2021, because I think that's very interesting. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another one. Bye!